Every drop coming out of this spout is literally costing me money, and it gets 10 times worse when the shower is running. Our hot and cold controls aren't working properly either, so today we're installing this all-in-one remodel kit to fix every single one of those issues. Plus, it looks way better. It gives you almost everything you need for a 3-handled setup, except for one essential tool you cannot finish the job without. When it comes to DIY plumbing, it never goes exactly like it says on the box. In this video, we'll show you what tools you'll need, how to pick the right kit for your tub or shower, and fixing that leak for good. First, we need to cut the water to the house. Next, we'll open up those lines, but before we get too deep into this project, we'll cover up that drain hole. Trust me, you'll end up dropping something. These handles will need to come off. Since we're replacing all of this, we don't really need to be gentle. With the cap gone, we can unthread the screw to remove the handle. What'd I tell you? Next, let's remove these old flanges. And honestly, I was a little surprised by what was back here. Now, before you start tearing into this project, in just a few moments, I'll show you the most effective way to guarantee you buy the right kit for your tub. And it looks like whoever installed this faucet jammed a ton of plumber's putty in these holes. This stuff is completely blocking us from using our extractor tool to remove the stems, so we'll need to pick out all this junk. Time for a suck break. This little hex socket came with the kit and is needed to remove the old stems. While a big wrench will give you more leverage, there is a little trick to help dislodge these valve stems. Firm taps should help to break those stubborn seals. But man, whoever did this installation really didn't think about the next guy that will be in here. There is more putty jamming this valve into place that will need to be cleared out. After extracting those last couple chunks, the diverter stem came right out. As I pull out this stem, I can see a subtle hint that tells us the type of kit we need to buy, which is a great segue into the next phase of this project. If you want to guarantee you buy the right kit the first time, here's what you want to do. First, look for any brand logos on the hardware. The only visible logo we could find was on the Overflow plate, which is a great clue, but it doesn't guarantee it matches our valve stems. However, once we pulled one of the stems, we spotted a faint double P stamped on the brass. Safe to say, these are Price Pfister valves.
Get a Price Pfister. A fabulous faucet.
Which brings us to a catch-22. You'll likely need to buy a valve socket tool before buying the kit so you can remove the old stems. Beyond the brand, stem length is crucial as some of these brands have different types of stems. And if you're still in doubt, just bring the old stem to your local hardware store and find the plumbing expert. They will be able to point you in the right direction. Now, these rebuild kits fix a wide array of problems, but if you have one specific issue, you don't have to buy the whole kit. For example, if you just have a slow, continuous drip, you likely just need a new seat washer on your hot or cold stem. If water keeps blasting out of the tub spout while the shower is running, that's likely a bad diverter stem. For us, whenever we DIY, we prefer to splurge on the parts since we're saving so much on labor. And while we're at it, we grab these 2 extra parts because the brand new handles would look a little funny next to a 30-year-old spout and faceplate. Before you buy a new spout, you'll want to measure the length of the old one. They're usually 5 or 6 inches long. This spout has seen better days, but it's still putting up a fight. Let's break out the strap wrench to finish it off. Well, that didn't work. Funny enough, a hammer gives the right amount of grip and leverage to pop this thing loose. It'd be a crime to put new hardware over all this crud, so we'll scrape the big stuff, then soak everything in lime away before wiping clean. We're finally back to bare, clean tile. Looking down this hole, we can see the next part we need to extract, called the seat. Although it says on the box, complete kit and ready to go, it is in fact not complete and is a no-go if you don't have this tool, called a seat wrench. They'll usually come with a rectangular end and a hexagonal end, so it can accommodate a variety of seats. Before we seat the new seats, we need to unthread the old ones. Sometimes these seats will have some buildup on them, making sticking the head in a little difficult. Just give it a few taps to secure it in there. With the last seat out, we can start to prepare our fresh new seats by lubing them up. This is where mistakes will be costly. If one of those seats falls into the void behind the wall, we are screwed. What we should have done was add a towel or something as a catch if we did end up slipping, but we ended up sticking it in with no protection. The first two seats, one for the hot and cold side, went in without incident. But the last one, for our diverter stem, will be much more difficult due to this obstacle. We'll have to rely on the pull-out method to get this seat fully threaded. The tricky part is making sure not to cross-thread as you install the new seat. This first stab didn't feel right, and now it is just dangling in the opening. If this thing falls into the abyss, we'll never see it again. After recovering the seat, we get our wrench and get right back in there. This next stab felt much better. After adjusting the wrench a couple times, we were able to get this last seat secured. This next step is optional, but this will likely be your only opportunity to do this. You hear all that whining as we twist? That's because there is metal on metal grinding. So we are greasing the inside of each stem with our waterproof grease. We'll also lube the butts of our stems, called the seat washer, then reassemble everything. Now for some more lube, this time on the threads of our valve stems. Like with our seats, we need to be careful as to not cross-thread while installing the new valves. The hot and cold stems are interchangeable. However, there is a specific stem that goes in the middle. That is our diverter stem, which is indicated by the green rubber. We'll snug everything up using the hex tool that came with the kit. The instructions do warn not to over-tighten, which is kind of hard to gauge what exactly that means, but if you're using a large wrench, you won't need to torque that hard. You'll know if you installed them correctly if you have no leaks. So, to check for leaks, we're closing these valves so we can turn the water back onto the house. We did notice this last valve was a little loose as we turned it, but we can tighten this nut to tighten things up a little bit. After turning the water back on, we'll wait a couple minutes and watch for leaks. After confirming we have no leaks, we need a way to prevent water from getting behind the wall, and jamming an obscene amount of plumber's putty in these holes is not the answer. Instead, we are using silicone caulk as a barrier. My dad, whose hands are the star of this video, is extremely knowledgeable and comfortable with a wide array of DIY projects. Me, not quite there yet. I do feel blessed to have an old man with this level of know-how, and I feel compelled to share his knowledge with you in a palatable format. Every project we record, I typically have some beginner level questions to which he answers like no one else could. Okay, so you don't put any...
I'm not, no, because it just gets scummy. Either put it around the outside or do it like that, but don't do both.
Okay.
At least that's my opinion. Thing is, if you let that set overnight and dry, then it's like a hard rubber seal, because when I just did that, it just probably smeared that shit all the way around to here. But like I said, I don't give a shit. All this is probably going to get ripped out anyway. Unless I hit the fucking lottery, the fucking house can go to hell.
So basically, you either want to put the caulk around the hole before you install the flange, like he did, or install the flange first, then caulk the edge around the flange. Either way you do it, you want to leave the bottom section uncaulked, so if water does get back there, or if there's a leak, the water has the opportunity to escape, kind of like a weep hole. If you do end up putting it underneath the flange, unlike us, you'd want to give the caulk some time to harden, because as my dad pointed out, it will smear if you install the flange right after. Next, we can pop on the handle bases and our porcelain handles to each stem. I personally like the design of this kit. To me, this is more of a timeless look, and it seems pretty well made. Like we did for the stems above, we are adding a caulk barrier around the hole for the faucet, while leaving the bottom uncaulked. Installing the new spout is pretty straightforward. We'll add a bit of grease to the threads. We'll also need to add this little plastic adapter that came with the new spout. Let's continue working our way down to this ugly thing. This was actually a lot more difficult to remove than we had anticipated. This guy just didn't want to let go. A cotter pin connects this to the drain plug, which is really stuck in there. Eventually, it gave in. Installing the new one was equally as difficult, but there are a couple tricks we learned that help. First, put the pin halfway through the rod, then try to attach the new part. Rather than working in this tight hole like we did for the first 10 minutes, pull this rod out as far as it will let you to give you more room to maneuver. You might have noticed we are using the old cotter pin. That's because it was easier for us to slip in. We aren't putting any caulk around the overflow plate. That's because it's designed to let water flow behind it and down into the drain pipe if the tub gets overfilled. However, there is a cutout on the edge of the plate that should be oriented downwards when installing. Alright, everything is back together and our continuous leak is gone, but let's see if we get any leaks while the shower is running. Also, our hot and cold controls are working better than ever. After about 10 seconds, the spout completely stops dripping. Let's do a quick before and after to admire the hard work. If you want to tackle more DIY plumbing jobs, check out my full plumbing playlist.